Chapter 509 Little Flame Bell. Her soul was saved because of the sacrifice of another life. She stayed at the Fire Pillar Hill ever since, at the starry tree to guard the new life after the fire calamity. The little creature is too fragile, and many demon beasts and humans desired its power. Without a guardian, it would be easily taken away, and the flame bell, as a rare species, would forever disappear from this world. Xinxia revealed everything she knew. The fiery sorceress had chased them all the way here to secure the lineage of the flame bell. The flame bell was born on the starry tree in the fiery brazier in the middle of a desert. The world was huge, with countless species, yet only the flame bell violated the natural way of producing offspring. It relied on a special way to keep their lineage, which guaranteed them to be the purest form of life, blessed by nature. The little flame bell ran around restlessly. The debris across the place became her joyful playground, completely unaware of the destruction, death, and conspiracy just a few moments ago. Mo Fan always thought he was a heartless man. All the deaths he had witnessed in the past had made him numb when it came to a situation like this, yet when he saw the fiery sorceress fire dying slowly and the little creature jumping around in such a lively manner, he suddenly found himself choking with sobs. The flame bell did not realize that the fiery sorceress whose life was coming to an end was her mother. She stood there, blinking her big eyes, and uttered a confused moan similar to that of a kitten. She had no idea how difficult her birth was. The fiery sorceress' life came to an end. Mo Fan believed that her eyes were full of relief when she saw the flame bell being born healthy. She would never regret what she had done. If there was anything she felt not satisfied with, it was the fact that she only had limited time to look at the little creature. The flame bell cried softly. She had the ability to float in the air. The tired creature flew into Mo Fan's arms. Mo Fan was surprised. It felt like the little creature had been circulating around him since she was born. Did she mistakenly assume he was her father? She left a marking in your soul when she possessed you. The flame bell will be treating you like her parent. Brother Mo Fan, Zhang Feng hopes that you will take good care of the little flame bell, said Xinxia. Mo Fan cast a glance at the little flame porcelain doll lying in his arms, then at the slowly fading fiery sorceress. He was indeed hoping that he would get a flame bell youngling as his contracted beast, yet he never thought it would turn out like this. Mo Fan took a deep breath as he was aware of the great responsibility entrusted to him. If her soul is still around, please tell her that when the fire calamity happens again, I'll bring the flame bell to the starry tree, and help her guard her lineage, Mo Fan told Xinxia. Xinxia shook her head and said, that was the last fire calamity, and she is the last flame bell. Why? Mo Fan exclaimed in surprise. Xinxia did not answer, as she only learned that from the disjointed memories of the fiery sorceress. The fire calamity would never happen again, nor would the starry tree bear any fire calamity fruit. The little creature was the last flame bell, and once she died, her species would become extinct. Fine, I'll take good care of this little thing, Mo Fan nodded sternly. He initially thought the hope of getting a flame bell was lost, yet he still ended up getting one. The truth was, the information about the flame bell supplied by the hunters was mere rumors and speculations. The flame bell they had seen over the past few years was actually the fiery sorceress Zhang Feng. The real flame bell lying in his arms was as light as a kitten, and as adorable as a porcelain doll. The flames surrounding her were weak and barely emitted any heat. Mo Fan drew the summoning star pattern after calming his thoughts. Mo Fan had never cast the intermediate summoning spell despite ranking up to intermediate a long time ago. Not only was he slow at casting the spell, he even failed a few times. It did not make too much of a difference. As he slowly completed the summoning star pattern, he placed the contract seal on the flame bell. The flame bell did not reject his energy. She rolled over and received the seal, before falling asleep again, as if she were telling Mo Fan not to wake a little baby up until it was time for food. By the way, what are you going to do if the flame bell drinks milk? Zhao Manyan went up to Mo Fan and asked jealously. Mo Fan straightened his face and mouthed his reply silently, as he was concerned of disturbing the flame bell's sleep. Piss off. I think she eats soul seed pieces, and they have to be fire elemental too, said Nanyu confidently. What? Mo Fan was left dumbfounded. Soul seed pieces. Soul seed pieces are extremely costly. He would rather feed the flame bell milk. A nanny would only cost a little bit of money every month. Besides, he still had gorgeous beauties like Xinxia, Tang Yue, Mu Nujiao, and the others to feed her. Brother Fan, do you have enough money to buy milk powder to feed her? Zhang Xiaohou asked softly. Mo Fan's face went dark. Judging from how the flame bell had eaten all the pieces of the fire calamity fruit in only a few minutes, God knows how many soul seed pieces he needed to feed her every day. How much money would he have to invest before she became mature? Luckily, we saved up some supply at the North Burning Valley. I don't think it's enough. I heard that the flame bell also eats soul seeds, since soul seed pieces aren't filling enough. That's right. It's said that the flame bell will possess a higher level flame once she matures if you feed her soul seeds. Mo Fan, I'm sure that a povo like you won't be able to raise her appropriately. Give her to me, my family has more than enough resources. Mo Fan gave Zhao Manyan a full screen of the same phrase, piss off. The flame bell's lineage is extraordinary. Her strength is surely formidable if you raise her well. Mo Fan, even if you have to sell all your possessions, you have to take good care of her. Don't worry about living a tough life, it will soon pay off. It's time for me to get back to the army, otherwise I'll get brought up as a deserter, sighed Zhang Xiaohou. Haozi, I can't let you go back empty-handed, take this soul seed. Brother Fan, I already found a diamond rock when you were swept away by the lava. I can sell it for a good price. You should keep the soul seed to feed your little flame bell. Quote. Mo Fan squinted. This son of a bitch Zhang Xiaohou, he still had the mood to dig up a diamond rock when he was swept away by the lava. I'll be taking this. Zhao Manyan took the contents of the demoness space ring. There was not much, but it was still profit. Xinxia took a piece of psychic equipment that the demoness was wearing, which seemed to be fairly valuable. Even though their profit was not as great as Mo Fan's, their loot was actual money and equipment, unlike Mo Fan, who still had to invest further before reaping the harvest. He was already a bottomless hole in need of resources, and now he had to raise a little flame bell that ate fire seeds and fire seed pieces. It seemed like he had to accept more quests. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to feed his family. Chapter 510 Not for Sale. Last night, Leihuo Town was struck by a meteorite, which resulted in a huge fire. Chairman Zhao Yulin's villa suffered a great loss. The weird meteorite contained a mysterious energy. Lots of vehicles broke down because of it. Leihuo Town is on fire due to the meteorite. The workers were evacuated in time, thus there was no casualty, which could have been a lot worse. A few days later, the news was still being reported. Even though Leihuo Town was fairly distant from the city, the news reporters still managed to get some information. Zhao Yulin does have some power, controlling the news and manipulating it into an accident. I guess the incident did wake him up. Mo Fan turned off the television. The news being fed to the public was somehow acceptable. Xinxian nodded. The fiery sorceress Zhang Feng was protecting the lineage of Flame Bell. Now that the Flame Bell was born healthy, her duty had been fulfilled. Brother Mo Fan, I'm going back to school. I've been out for such a long time, my teachers are going to scold me, said Xinxia. I'll send you back. The return journey between Hangzhou and Shanghai only took half a day. Mo Fan sent Xinxia back to school, and returned to the Pearl Institute. Zhang Xiaohou and Nanyu went back to their headquarters, especially the former who had left urgently, as if something tricky was waiting for him back in the army. Mo Fan was going to ask Zhang Xiaohou to stay in Shanghai for a few days and enjoy himself, but he had no choice but to let Zhang Xiaohou go because of the urgent matter. After settling the tasks on hand, Mo Fan paid Huo Tuo a visit. Considering the length of time, his armor equipment should be done by now. Mo Fan was waiting to wear it so he could climb the rankings. His cultivation was too weak. There was no chance he could defeat stronger demon beasts and magicians if he did not improve anytime soon. When he arrived at the Opal Tower, he went straight to Huo Tuo's shop and saw the guy with the shameless name Li Junan dozing off at the counter. "Why is it you again? By the way, your snake scales didn't even have lines. How are they good?" Li Junan stopped Mo Fan. The question had troubled him every night since then. Mo Fan rolled his eyes, not wanting to speak to the apprentice with a very touching IQ. "Where's my stuff?" asked Mo Fan. "Is it Mo Fan? Thanks to the 2 fangs you found, I've invented something remarkable. Do you want to take a... Huh? What's the little fire on your shoulder?" Huo Tuo went up to Mo Fan with squinted eyes. "My contracted beast." Mo Fan was left speechless. He grabbed the little flame bell jumping around his shoulders and flicked the little, adorable porcelain doll on her head to teach her a lesson. "Didn't I tell you not to come out on your own? It's fine if you burn someone, but it's no good if you ended up burning the flowers and plants." Ling. The flame bell lowered her head. She almost broke into tears, feeling wronged. Mo Fan felt helpless. Other people's contracted beasts would stay in the contracted space, and only appear when they were summoned. The flame bell, on the other hand, appeared to have some weird power, allowing her to move freely between the contracted space and reality. Mo Fan could not do anything about it. This must be the flame bell. Suddenly, Huo Tuo's eyes glistened like a pervert pedophile seeing an adorable little loli. He was so close to lunging at her. Hey, watch yourself, old man," said Mo Fan sternly, stopping Huo Tuo, who was trying to hug the little creature. Huo Tuo coughed awkwardly. "My bad, I was too excited. Kid, give me a price. I'll buy the flame bell from you, whatever the price you say." Huo Tuo's face was flushed. He did not even act like this when he saw the vampire's fangs. Little did Mo Fan know, the flame bell was basically the dream pet of every forge master. Normally only magicians with either fire or lightning elements were able to become a forge master, but the best forge masters were always summoners with fire element contracted beasts, as they were able to help them in the process of forging equipment. Different materials were processed by flames with different effects, so by gaining control of a different type of fire, a forge master would be able to insert more power into the process and forge higher quality equipment. Huo Tuo was a 3-flame forge master, as he had 3 different types of fire to forge with. A creature like a flame bell usually had 2 different types of fire. In other words, if Huo Tuo was able to get a flame bell and train her, he would become a 4-flame forge master, making him a world-renowned forge master. The only problem was, a creature like the flame bell did not come easily. Most people only heard about it from rumors, instead of seeing a real one. Those who had seen one were not strong enough to take her down, let alone get their hands on a flame bell's youngling. In order to become a world-famous forge master, the stingy Huo Tuo was willing to expend half of his possessions in exchange for a flame bell. As such, Huo Tuo almost went crazy when he saw Mo Fan with a flame bell. He simply asked Mo Fan to give him a price, and he would not blink even if the kid asked for hundreds of millions. Calm down. I'll offer you 1,000 million to sell your granddaughter to me. Will you do it? This flame bell is not for sale, just give it up." Mo Fan shoved the mad old man away. "Mo Fan, oh no, brother Mo Fan, just sell her to me. I'll pay any price you say." The old man was unstoppable, acting shamelessly. The only step he lacked was hugging Mo Fan's legs, begging him for the flame bell. Li Junan was dumbfounded. He still did not understand the snake scales, and now another shocking question had popped up. Why was his master, who disregarded so many valuable treasures, so obsessed with a little fire porcelain doll? Where was his dignity as a forge master? Mo Fan was totally helpless against the old man Huo Tuo. He quickly put the flame bell away. Huo Tuo could not do anything, either. Mo Fan simply did not want to sell it, regardless of what he was willing to offer. To fawn upon Mo Fan, Huo Tuo quickly handed the black snake armor to him. The old man, who was initially intending to scam some extra fees from the kid, immediately decided against it. "How about this? Since she's already your contracted beast, it would be quite troublesome to sell her to me. I'll take you in as my apprentice. With the flame bell, you can easily become a 4-flame forge master. As for the learning fees, I'll give you a discount, said Huo Tuo sternly. See ya. Mo Fan took the armor and left. Crazy man, who would want to be his apprentice? Mo Fan was aiming to become the greatest magician of all time. He had no interest in forging whatsoever. Chapter 511 For the sake of the kid. Forge masters were usually lightning and fire magicians. Since Mo Fan had both fire and lightning, he was considered extremely suitable to becoming a forge master, but the art of forging was very profound. Not only would one need to learn lots of information about crafting and materials, including breaking them down, refining them, and then combining them, they would also need to choose their soul seeds wisely. Mo Fan was not into learning life skills and spending his time on random stuff. He preferred killing monsters and PvP battles. Although he would save lots of money by becoming a forge master himself, and he could even make a living doing it, it required a great investment of time. Mo Fan was already running short on time to cultivate. There was no way he would waste more time on other stuff. His priority now was to improve his 4 elements to the highest limit of the intermediate level, before he started thinking about breaking through to the advanced level. After Mo Fan returned to school, he was granted the chance to cultivate inside the 3-step tower for a day. A single day was too short for Mo Fan. Even if he forcefully made his way to the 3rd floor where the energy was more abundant, it would only stabilize the foundation of his lightning element. It was nowhere enough for him to break through. As such, Mo Fan started to challenge those ranked in the top 20. The students in the top 20 were allowed to cultivate in the 3-step tower for 3 days every month. Lately, he had spent most of his time on questing and exploring in the wild. His fighting capacity was fairly outstanding, but his cultivation was a lot weaker than those ranked higher on the leaderboard. After all, they were given 3 days to cultivate in the 3-step tower every month. Those few days alone were enough to make a huge difference. Mo Fan did not leave his house unless necessary for 2 months. Apart from meditating diligently, he also relied on the 3-step tower to force a breakthrough, and finally managed to improve his shadow element nebula to the 2nd level. Mo Fan's next target was the lightning element, which had idled at the 2nd level for quite some time. He would find himself at a disadvantage against those whose 2 elements had both achieved the 3rd level. The good news was, over the past 2 months, the little flame bell did grow slightly. In the past, Mo Fan only needed to open his hand for the little creature to sleep on his palm. Now, he needed 2 hands to hold her. The little flame bell still looked like an adorable porcelain doll. If it weren't for the flames burning on her body, she would look no different than a little girl around the age of 2. The flame bell is growing quite fast. However, I'll be challenging the guys in the top 20 next month. She's still too weak against them, Mo Fan said to himself with a frown as he sat at the Clearski Hunter Agency's bar. Each of the students ranked in the top 20 was a maniac. Mo Fan already felt the great pressure when he fought against those in the top 50. As he prepared to challenge those in the top 20, he was hoping to have more safety measures, in addition to the black snake armor. The phases of a contracted beast are somewhat similar to a demon beast, which include the youth phase, the adult phase, and the peak phase. A creature with a weaker lineage will go through the phases much quicker. A creature like the one-eyed magic wolf only needs half a year to reach the adult phase from birth without the support of any item. It's even faster than an ordinary pet dog. Your flame bell's lineage is rather impressive. It has been 2 months, but she still hasn't reached the youth stage. She's still in her infant phase, despite the fact that she has already eaten lots of soul seed pieces. Ling Ling informed him as she flipped through the pages of a book. Not even the youth stage? Mo Fan was left speechless. The growing pace of the creatures that sign a contract with summoners is affected by the supply of energy your nebula is providing. As such, the time it takes for her to grow is a lot shorter, added Ling Ling. You should just tell me how long she will need to reach the youth stage. Mo Fan rested his chin on his hand and wryly glanced at the little flame bell running happily along the bar's table. The flame bell looked fairly plump, which was likely because she had been eating well for the past 2 months. She was almost like a little fireball, who would not feel any pain when falling to the ground. She could easily bounce half the distance she fell from back into the air. Based on my calculations, it would normally take her 3 to 5 years to grow from the infant phase to the youth phase. Her pace of growth is very similar to that of humans. Ling Ling raised her fingers. All right, I guess I've pretty much adopted a daughter. I'll be an old man when she finally has some great achievements. You've been feeding her soul seed pieces, which should shorten the time it takes to a third normal. This means she will only need around 12 to 17 months to reach the youth phase. Her growing pace will be increased by another 3 times because of the energy from your summoning element. As a result, it should only take her 4 to 5 months to reach the youth phase, which means the shortest possible time for her to reach the youth phase is a month, or 3 months at the latest. Ling Ling instantly broke down the information like a king of data. Mo Fan let out a relieved sigh. It was still acceptable after hearing the analysis. It would be troublesome if she needed 3 to 5 years to only reach the youth phase. Once she reaches the youth phase, you can start feeding her soul seeds, said Ling Ling. Quote. Mo Fan was speechless. 20 million for a tin of milk powder. How could he possibly afford to look after her? Of course, a creature with stronger lineage needs a huge amount of resources, but the benefits you get in return are huge, too. I roughly estimate, based on the rate of growth from the amount of soul seed pieces you're feeding her, the flame bell should be as strong as the swift star wolf when she reaches the youth phase, added Ling Ling. Warrior level at the youth phase? Mo Fan was stunned. That's right, her strength will be warrior level during her youth phase, Ling Ling declared confidently. Mo Fan was speechless for quite some time. The swift star wolf was already in his adult phase, yet his strength was around the early warrior level stage, still some distance away from the stronger warrior level creatures. Despite that, even a fire magician in the top 100 would have trouble fighting against him alone. According to Ling Ling, the flame bell's strength would be around the middle stage of the warrior level when she reached the youth phase, which meant that those ranked in the top 50 would not be able to defeat her, without him needing to do anything. Youth phase, that was only the youth phase. Doesn't that mean when the little flame bell reached the peak phase, or even the adult phase, even the commander level creatures would have to avoid her? Come, have some soul seed pieces. Your dad is loaded with money. You can have as many soul seed pieces as you want, eat more. Mo Fan took out a handful of soul seed pieces from his pocket. The soul seed pieces were all that remained from those they had collected from the burning valley. Mo Fan could not wait to let the little flame bell eat them, even though each piece was more expensive than diamonds, just so she could reach the youth phase earlier. The little flame bell ate the soul seed pieces like chocolate. She bit half of each piece and munched on it with puffed cheeks. Her eyes were squinted like fiery crescents as she indulged happily. Mo Fan fondled the little flame bell's head with a smile on his face. A rich merchant's mansion is haunted. The reward is 1 million. Are you interested? Yes. A group of herb vendors wants to get some herbs outside of the safe zone. They're asking for a magician to escort them. The reward is great, but they are only asking for a hunter master. Are you interested? Aren't you a hunter master? Accept it. Mo Fan was extremely pumped. As long as the quest gave money as a reward, he accepted all of them without hesitation, regardless of their difficulty. It was all for the sake of the kid. Chapter 512 Beheading the Darkwing Wolf. Late night, the city that was normally lit up with dazzling lights somehow seemed quiet in the midst of the icy wind. Inside the apartment, Mo Fan pushed the door open tiredly and glanced at the clothes, packages of snacks, and socks that were scattered across the floor. Not in the mood to tidy them up, Mo Fan toppled over onto the bed and fell asleep. The quest put up by the herb vendors was extremely difficult. If it weren't for his black snake armor, it might have been the end of him. Either way, he did not let the Clearski Hunter Agency down, and managed to complete the quest. Mo Fan had totally expended all his energy, thus he went to bed straight away, without realizing that the window was open. He slept throughout the night and was woken up by the blinding sunlight slapping him on the face. The little flame bell woke up earlier than Mo Fan. She was walking around on the bed, and would trample Mo Fan's face at times. Her fiery feet left scorched marks on his face, waking him up from his half-asleep state. Mo Fan picked up the naughty flame bell and flicked her forehead. The little creature immediately cried out and waved her limbs in the air wildly. Mo Fan finally calmed her down after feeding her a soul seed piece, before falling back onto the bed after feeling how sore he was. A few seconds later, Mo Fan flung the blanket open and stared at the clean room in bewilderment. He might be worn out, but it did not give him amnesia. Mo Fan clearly remembered how messy his room was prior to going to sleep. Why did it completely change after a night? He could still detect a faint pleasant scent lingering in the room. Mo Fan glanced at the little flame bell who was munching her chocolate in confusion, before shaking his head in disagreement. It would be a relief if she didn't burn the room down around him. How could she possibly tidy it up? Since Xinxia had left, he had not cleaned up. Lots of unsightly stuff had stacked up over the past 2 months. Lu Ru? Mo Fan suddenly recalled something. He glanced at the closed window. Mo Fan touched his neck and felt something piercing him slightly. He looked into the mirror and discovered a tiny kiss on his neck. There was no hole. Lu Ru seemed to know that Mo Fan had gone through some tough battles, thus he was extremely worn out. She did not drink his blood. Over the past 2 months, Mo Fan was aware that his neck would sprout tiny holes every now and then. He was guessing it was Lu Ru. She seemed to only be able to drink only his blood to stay alive, yet she was not willing to face him, thus she would only visit him while he was asleep. She never overdid it, and never showed the greed of a vampire. For a healthy human, losing some blood would actually promote blood circulation, like donating it. Lu Ru would always control her desire without affecting Mo Fan's health. Looking at the closed window and the mark on his neck, Mo Fan let out a wry smile. Mo Fan knew she was still in the city, and watching over him secretly. However, Mo Fan never thought she would choose this path. Even though she would need to drink his blood in order to survive, she was still unwilling to step into his world and disturb his life. The Nanling Mountains. Even when one was flying high up in the sky, there was no visible end to the mountains. 2 pairs of wind wings spread open, gliding below the layer of the clouds. The wings slashed the white clouds apart, leaving an obvious trail behind. The owner of the wings was a long-haired man with a stubbled face. He was wearing a torn military jacket, dried bloodstains on it. Below him was a boundless mountain range, glowing eyes poking out between the trees and staring at the human who dared to trespass over their territory. However, despite a great number of demon wolves having gathered, none of them dared to attack the human, because the human was holding an enormous wolf head in his right hand. The wolf head had 2 horns and lines indicating a noble lineage on its forehead. Its fangs were exposed to the air. It was beheaded around the middle part of its neck, blood still coming out from the cut, dripping onto the mountains. As the human flew forward, it left a trail of blood on the ground, from one mountain to the next. The demon wolves living in the area did not dare to try and kill the human, as the head he was holding in his hand belonged to their ruler, the Darkwing Wolf. The man had invaded the demon wolf's territory, and ended up bringing the Darkwing Wolf's head back to Bo City. When the hero Zon Kong arrived at Bo City, the civilians found themselves tearing up, their hearts filled with respect toward the battle mage. Zon Kong, you have disobeyed your orders. Didn't I tell you that we'd find some way to eliminate the demon wolves horde, but you insisted on doing it your own way. If you die, Bo City will be in danger, scolded the new commander protecting Bo City, Zhang Yu. Zon Kong threw the Darkwing Wolf's head to the ground and said coldly, "If I continue to wait for a coward like you to do it, how long will it take before the dead of Bo City finds their peace?" "What did you say?" snapped Zhang Yu. "You can punish me however you want. I'll accept it when the time comes." Zon Kong did not stop there. His wind wings prepared to send him back into the sky. "Where are you going?" snapped Zhang Yu when he saw that Zon Kong was not paying any attention to him. "I'm going to look for Salin," said Zon Kong. "The Black Vatican's Red Cardinal?" Zhang Yu was stunned. Salin, a name that would make many authorities of the magic associations shiver in fear. Zhang Kong did not explain further. He flew into the distance despite the injuries to his body. The greatest threat to Bo City had been eliminated, thus he would leave the rest to Zhang Yu. Zhang Kong's eyes were staring to the northwest, filled with murderous intent. Not only did Zhang Kong kill the Darkwing Wolf at the Nanling Mountains, he had also discovered a shocking conspiracy. Bo City was never Salin's real target. Yuer, if I can survive this, I'll look for you under the gaps of Tianshan Mountain. If not, please forgive me for not keeping my promise. You know I, Zhang Kong, am never intimidated by anyone, but this Salin, his evil is something that no one has ever seen before. The fear he brings is enough to penetrate my bones. Zhang Kong wore a dark expression, his hand clenched tightly around a broken necklace. The sky and the ground were connected into one. The road ahead was filled with uncertainty. He knew that the closer he was to that person, the closer he would be to death, but he was left with no choice. His figure grew smaller as he flew into the distance on his hunt.